Hey everyone, welcome back to the Goldendoodle channel. My Goldendoodle's name is Boaz. We were inspired by the name of Boaz from the Bible. We are Christians, so we love to receive and just apply certain things from the Bible, especially names that have significant meaning to them. And so today I'm going to be sharing with you a glimpse of how I am beginning the crate training. Our puppy is an F1B Goldendoodle, black with a white spot on its chest. We had it in this playpen last night because it actually was used to sleeping in like a kennel with its litter mates. And when we tried to put Boaz in the crate last night, he wasn't the most comfortable. He was like, okay, this is a bit strange, awkward. So we will be slowly implementing that introduction into his puppy world. Mind you, our measurements of the dog were not exactly up to our memory, and so the crate is slightly smaller, but it's just the right amount of space to feed him because he's not going to be in the crate all day. We're just practicing that with his meals throughout the day so that he is comfortable and his scent is there, and then slowly but surely we'll have him from the playpen to the crate during the moments that he's needing to be there. This is the playpen that we have him in. We actually found this from Walmart. It's for babies actually, so it's pretty good. We believe he's gonna outgrow it not long from now, but it's just right. We were told that he and his parents actually, they like to curl up and be snuggly, so this space is adequate for him at the moment. We will make it larger whenever it seems fit, and we notice that he's quite uncomfortable. Blanket and that black toy is from his former family's home. And this toy with the ring, we purchased that, so hopefully we can start introducing him to new scents. Now over here, what you see is one bowl, of a fourth of a cup of Origin, a fourth of a cup of Rachel Ray, which is the kibble his family was feeding him, and then a third of a cup of wet food. I believe it's like Purina, I'm not exactly sure, but we're gonna be feeding him Rachel Ray and Purina, I believe. I'm gonna get that corrected if it's wrong, until we finish up the batch that they gave us so that he can transition completely into the kibble. So as you see, you can see the Origin and the kibble that they did provide, and I'm gonna be giving him wet food to start in the crate, and then I will be training him with this and moving it back and forward inside and outside of the crate with my hand. Then once he's done, then that's when I'm gonna give him about a half a cup of water, depending if he drinks it all up. Say hi, this is Boaz. So what I'm doing is just petting the puppy as he's eating so that as he ages, he doesn't develop aggression towards his food, whether it's with humans or other dogs. So as much as possible, touch him everywhere while he is not so sensitive to it all, just because, especially if it's the only puppy or dog you have in the household, he will get used to eating by himself. And so if ever you encounter a home with another puppy, or you're out in a public space and there's food involved in general, the puppies can very pick up on a territorial mindset when it comes to food as soon as 1 to 2 weeks. It just depends on the breed. So definitely, regardless if they're known to be aggressive breeds or not, you want to make sure you do this on a daily basis so that they don't develop an unhealthy habit. And mind you, this needs to be done with every single meal. As soon as you receive any puppy, it doesn't matter if it's a few months old or a few weeks old, you want to make sure everything that you do is in habit in a training program in home. You don't want to solely rely on trainers if you have the money to afford putting the puppy into like a puppy program, or you don't want the dog to be corrected by the public if something goes wrong and then you hear a side comment because they aren't behaving well. So you just want to make sure that if you are deciding on owning a puppy anytime soon, you do your research, you do your due diligence, and ensure that every single thing you have in place is set for success for you and the puppy, because the faster and the more committed you are to doing these processes, though they may be quite a bit of a burden at first, depending on how your life schedule is, you know, it can be a bit much, but do as much as you can. If you have kids or other family members, a spouse, share the responsibilities, because definitely the dog also needs to get used to not only you, but respecting other people as well. And they will, of course, have probably more respect and of a safer relationship, so to say, with one or two individuals. But for the most part, you just want to make sure that they are comfortable with strangers all in all, just in case. You never know, because the more that they are comfortable with society and the world around them, the healthier it will be for their life long term. We're gonna grab his other food. Good boy, good boy. Now I have the dry kibble, which I'm gonna be training him with. So I'm gonna put him right here. He knows that the food is here. I'm gonna be guiding him inside. As soon as he licks, I'm gonna be feeding him and allowing him to have the food. You don't want to encourage the jumping, so whenever he sits, you want to give him the meal. If he jumps, you want to stand until he does sit. If he's not, of course, this is like the first day. And encourage him whenever he's sitting down. You want to really reward him with that, so that he is able to acknowledge that, hey, when I'm in this position, I get rewarded. It's a bit tricky feeding him when he's sitting down inside the crate, just because of the space, but so far he's doing really good. I'm giving him the larger Origin food just because it's easier for me to hold, but I'm gonna give him the little tiny kibbles that you may have seen when he's done with the larger kibbles, just because it's a bit easier for me to hold the Origin versus the other food. Good boy. Now when he's there, you want to just close this cage so he also recognizes that it's a safe spot. Open it. Have him go like this. Make these sounds. he's all finished. I'm gonna leave him there and see how he reacts. Surprisingly, he did pretty fine. The other night he was barking like crazy. So now I want to test this out. Where he sits. And he doesn't come out of the crate. Now when he sits, and that's a good thing. Now you want to give him some love. What I have here is a half a cup of water and a little bit of apple cider vinegar. We're gonna get him used to intaking some very good bacteria, and this also helps with the digestive system and just overall cleansing as it would in humans. I'm giving him some of the water right now with apple cider vinegar. He's like, okay, what is this? But he will get used to it. The puppies will adjust to the flavors just as they would with any food and treats. And so the puppy may or may not need all of it just simply because he had wet food, but we'll see if he finishes it all or not. But they do recommend giving your puppies about half a cup of water every 2 to 3 hours depending. But mind you, if you do this, have it done during the day when you are able to take out the dog every hour. You want to make sure you take your dog out every hour, at least 30 minutes if possible, to get them used to peeing and pooing outside. You don't want to create an unhealthy habit with allowing them to hold in their bladder and poo as their puppies, because they will just then continue doing their business indoors versus outdoors. Excuse how I look like, but I just woke up from a brief nap, and this is going to be the second feed for Boaz. So we are doing half a cup of our origin kibble, which is the new food he will be transitioning to, and then a fourth of a cup of the Rachel Ray kibble that he was consuming as his main diet at the breeder's house. So we will begin again with training. Since there are no wet foods in this meal, we are just going to be training him to do the proper posture with sitting, and then that's when he gets rewarded. And then also going into the cage, not needing to sit, just more so acclimating to the environment of the cage itself. He was napping so nicely for some time, and I'm sure he's probably a bit hungry now. So let's get you some lunch, baby boy. He's all ready. He already expected the food to be inside the cage, so that's good. I'm gonna drop some food inside the cage so that he can just relax because he's pretty hungry. Yeah. He's quite hungry. The next thing that we will need to practice on is slow feeding him. Uh-uh. Now let's go grab him some water. Now he has his water. This is still leftover from earlier since he hadn't finished it. But as long as he has half a cup and water present, I'm not gonna give more just to gauge how much water he is actually drinking. So he did have a little winky when we were driving on the way home from where we picked him up yesterday, but so far he's been pretty good. He has pooed this morning when we first took him out. He hasn't pooed since after his first and of course his recent meal, but he has peed a few times, so it's really, really good. And our nap was around maybe 2.5 hours or so, so he did pretty good. And right before I cut the video off, he was whining and barking, and my husband and I, initially we were hoping to just have like a positive reinforcement, let him ride out the barking and the whining when he first arrived in our home, because he just wasn't settled. He was extremely uncomfortable, nervous, and definitely there's some separation anxiety from his litter mates and family, of course. And so we allowed him to bark for a few minutes, but it just kept going on and on and on. And mind you, we live in an apartment. We do have neighbors, and it was quite late when we arrived last night. So to avoid and prevent any future issues with Boaz being nervous and just expressing it through his barks, we ended up going to pretty much more like a positive reinforcement in a way. It's not anything that's like abusive or too tough or too hard on a dog, because they can handle it. It mimics how the dog parents, so like the mom or the dad of Boaz, would have disciplined them when they were together. So if you watch a lot of videos of dogs disciplining their puppies, they typically will bite, not do like a full-on bite, but put their mouth around their ears, their head, their neck, their feet, their tail, anything, even the back of their body or their whole body, depending on what size they are at that time, and or they will make a sound. So what we've been doing is telling him, shh, shh, shh. So as you can see what I was doing, I said shh. So we decided to do shh because that's a lot quieter and gentle sound that even humans use. And we tap him, so we pat, like it's as if you're patting someone on the back, like, hey, come here. So that's what we do. So we go shh, and as soon as we hear him make any sound, when he starts rising up the tone from like a little baby whine to a full-on bark, and we can catch him right then and there, and he knows, he understands. I started shh when he was whining, and then he started making it a louder cry and then a bark, and then I went over there and did that. So he understands that he's getting it. We just need to put it into practice. So I highly encourage you to make the adjustment a lot more smoother and nice for you, because it is a lot of work. Definitely figure out what works best and put it into practice. Make it a habit. Be consistent. The moment that you stop, that will be the moment that the kid, the baby, the dog, the puppy, they will probably forget, and you will have to start all over again. So this is going to be a continuous learning process for you and the dog for some months, but it's definitely going to be worth it, because later on you'll have an adult dog that is completely great, who has manners and is respectful and obeys you and is able to understand what is needing to be done at what time and the type of environments you are in. It's that time again. We are gonna feed Boaz his last meal of the day. I was able to get him to nap for a couple hours or maybe a few while I was cooking, and I left him alone in the playpen, which is in the living room. And tonight will be the first night we're gonna crate train him to sleep in there, because as I work, he will be in the bedroom with us, but in the crate. So what I'm gonna do for his last meal is gonna be 1/4 of a cup of the Origin kibble, 1/4 of a cup of the Rachel Ray kibble, which he was having before we had him, as well as 1/3 of a cup of wet food, which they also recommended to just finish it off. And I definitely think that we should just finish off the food because it is there for a reason, and especially if he's been having this meal, then I don't want his digestive system to react so harshly, and then his, potty time gets all messed up. But the schedule has been pretty similar as how he was in the past. So it's nice because it works out really, really nicely with our schedule, with my husband and our schedule. And so yeah, I'm gonna do a video of me feeding him. It's gonna be 2 bowls again, one wet with the dry food, and then the other dry so that I can train him free feeding or hand feeding. So let's get to it. We have some leftover water in here, which I'm just gonna pour into a bowl so that I can put his other half of the food in here. Okay, so I'm using like a rice cooker measuring cup because it is perfect. So 1/4 of a cup of each kibble, and then 1/3 of a cup, which is slightly above here, of the wet food. And this will help him stay content throughout the night, to avoid him waking up and being hungry for additional food. And then, like I said, about 1/3 of a cup there of the wet food. And I'm avoiding him being exposed to us when we're preparing his food or our food in general, so he doesn't get used to begging. That's a huge no-no. I don't want him to develop that habit of like begging for food. I want him to know how to respect us. So I did, give or take, let me see. And also for the fact of him being quite a big dog, he will be able to like hop on here with his 2 front paws if he wanted to do so when he's bigger. And so I don't want to encourage that behavior at all. So I'm just gonna smush this over and just stir this. So that should be good. Now you see there are 2 bowls, half and half. This one I gave more in, obviously with the wet food. And then half of this I'm gonna be training him, hand feeding him with the larger kibble, and then giving him the remaining to finish off. And then afterwards, I'm gonna dump the remaining water, and I'm gonna put it in here so that he can get his water there. Who's ready for dinner? He's already going in. Now when he goes in with the first bowl, touch him. Make him know that you're not a threat. And earlier, you may have noticed the cage, I moved the division upward because he's quite a big baby, and this is a good size for him right now. He doesn't need the entire lot, just to keep him comfortable as a puppy. He likes it small, you know, it can be overwhelming if the puppies are exposed to a large amount of space in a short period of time, especially when they were used to being in a tight-knit group with their with their litter mates. So when he's done with this, I'm gonna grab his bowl and then shut the door and lock it. I'm just gonna shove him in there. Now I have his second round of food, and I'm not gonna open this until he sits down, so that he understands like he needs to respect. And you want to do your best to take initiative with feeding him when he is seated, even though he can probably move out of that position, so that when he is in this position, he knows that he will be rewarded, and this is a good position for him to be in. Now I'm going to transition him back inside. Give him a few bits of food in here. And I'm gonna be putting him back and forward, inside and outside the crate. And you want to guide him. There you go. Okay, now it's just like the little bits, and I'm gonna put it back inside. Give him some touch. Now, you wanna have this noise while he's in here eating, so that he knows it's not a threat. And I'll be back. This is now the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. We hope that you follow along and just see how the progress grows for Boaz, the black Goldendoodle. I hope that this video helps with the training of your new puppy and just getting him familiar with the crate. It is an essential training that you must do if you plan on having him without full freedom in the home. And I believe that is extremely important. And with this, just keep in mind, you want to use positive reinforcement, be gentle. It is a baby, it is a puppy, it is still learning new things, and it's relying on you to be the leader of their pack. And so encourage this habit to be done every single day as much as you're able to, until the dog is situated, settled, and trusting in you. Have a blessed day.